join the martial arts.
Big surprise. Huge surprise.
I'm starting to get in a bad mood, you know? Maybe it's like a mood swing, my hormones, I don't know. You know, maybe it's my needs impose my will.
Good evening. You're listening live to Kickin It. I'm Rob, your host. Tonight we're doing the Raid Redemption from 2011. My guest, as usual, with Kickin It is the real Dr. V. Hey, it's me, the real Dr. V. I don't know if that deserves a bang, but Doctor, good evening, sir. How are you?
Much like you said, it's me, it's RDV.
That's right. So, we had a lot of requests to just say, you got to do the raid. And I'm like, okay, what is it? Oh, it's a movie on Netflix, an action film. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I guess I took a look at it. Apparently it came out in 2011. Was an Indonesian film. It's a micro budget, which gets a +1 for me about it. I think it cost about $1 million American to make. Made about 8-9 times that in that market or whatever market it was released in. Indonesia, of course, a massive market. Jakarta, if you will. And I gotta sit there and say, after watching this whole movie, I'm just gonna be like, it's okay. I don't hate it. There's some things I like about it. I am being told by tons of people that are younger than me that it's the greatest action film they've ever seen, and that may be true. So I don't want to be too disparaging about the film because I don't actually think it's bad, but it's kind of like the Washington Redskins when I covered them earlier and they lost to the Green Bay Packers. It's just more of the same. I mean, I've seen this movie before many times. And that doesn't mean it still can't be entertaining, and some things were, but it's got some flaws too. And we definitely don't hold back on that on here on the Extreme Movie Show. So we're going to dive right into it. Doctor, what were your initial thoughts about this movie?
Well, you nailed it right on the head. I've seen this movie before, mainly because I've watched Dredd. It's one man going against a whole bunch of people to get the villain who's at the top of the building.
A literal boss level fight, if you will.
Literally, it's a video game fight. You know, you're working your way up to the next stage. We saw this with the Ninja Turtles game for Nintendo. Same thing, making way through the hallway, going up to the next level. This movie, it still was good as an action film. I love the fact there was martial arts in this. You know, it wasn't just all guns and stuff. Yes, they brought in machetes, and it seems to be the thing with this crew. They also use this.
I like some of this crew though.
Yeah. They brought as far as machetes though. This is in was it? I think it's they come at night. Is that's not part. It's not a sequel, but it's like it's the same group of people.
Right.
Gory. I mean, that's great. It's always great in a film, you know, when they actually show the killing. You know,
there is substantial gore in this film, and it's done very well, which is a plus. Yeah. You are correct.
My only complaint really with this movie is like, other than it just feeling like I've already seen before, is the cops, man, the SWAT team, dude. Like, where did you get this gun? It's like the police academy would have done. The guys, even Gutenberg would have done better than this, man. It's like
Stuber.
The thing is, like, where are the flashbangs, man? Like, they all have like the stuff. Don't they have tear gas and stuff? You know, and, like, they're going into a building, it just either was it's the beginning. It's like you get the feeling. It's like, okay, no, it's just like it's just a ragtag a group of idiots who've never stormed a building, or is this a setup? I mean, what is this? It's like,
or was it the swerve where it's just a training exercise and then the real raid begins?
Right? I mean, man, it's like after watching Train to Busan, I want to go back and watch a sequel to Train to Busan.
Yeah, at least that's mindless. Yeah, so let's start. Let's take it from the beginning. So to me, you see this guy, kind of warming up, doing some pull-ups and push-ups kind of things, which is always cool. I always like that. And he's got a pregnant wife, and it's basically, I'll bring him home. I'm like, okay. So there's this dude, and the martial art, I guess, and if I'm pronouncing it correctly, and I may not be, is I think it's called Silat. And at least that's how it sounds in my head, and it sounds kind of sexy, so I will say Salat for the duration of the show. And for me, I've happened to have known a few people that have been in Indonesia, spent time in there, spent time in actually some not safe areas that are legit bad slums, with actually cannibal type tribes, because there's a place or two in Indonesia where those things may exist still. And I know that sounds weird, but it's a big place and there's a ton of people over there. So for this movie to be really big, I thought was a positive, and I thought, oh wow, here's a movie that's not American that will probably have a different take on martial arts. It will show us Sulat in all its glorious bloody, violent forms, which we did see that, I guess, because I couldn't really tell what the technique of Salat was, as opposed to, say, Krav Maga, which I think is Israeli, and people will talk about how it's close quarters combat fighting and this and that. I don't know because they didn't really explain that to you. So we have this guy that's a part of this special SWAT team. So they're supposed to all be badasses. They're already infighting on the way up there, and they storm this. I guess he's a crime lord's building. We have absolutely no reason to understand what makes this guy bad, other than he's got a bunch of people in this building that he's charging rent to, which of course you're going to, especially in an area like that. I mean, I could even probably go off on a tangent and talk about the economics of the situation and how it's failing, because here you have a crime lord that's providing something that the market won't because of, high government interference. That being said, you only send 15 people, maybe 20 tops. I think I counted 13 at one point, which I thought was ironic in the van. May have been more. You're sending your best team, and it's only this amount to this building that might literally have dozens of people in there. You don't have any backups or plan Bs that I can tell, and you don't have the equipment necessary to take on everybody in terms of number of bullets, flashbangs, and everything else. I didn't know what to expect with that, so I thought that was a little odd. I thought the building was supposed to be kind of small, and then when you start realizing they're going up all these floors, you're like, okay, that's fine. They started off with guns, and then they kind of end up going to martial arts, which I preferred, because the gunplay to me, while there's some stylistic shots in there, especially the looker kid that gets shot as they start going in there, the bullet goes through him in slow mo. I'm like, okay, that's a cool hook. It had a good sense of dread, but then honestly, I'm going to use this word, and I don't mean it in a negative way. A lot of the fight scenes were just flat out silly. They were good. Some of them were Jason Bourne-ish, but to your point, they brought in a ton of machetes. So I thought we might get like a different weapon each level, and we didn't get that. We just got a mild location change until we got to the final boss. So what did you think about them storming the building?
Storming the building, I said like going in is like okay, they were okay coming in, like uh you get the impression like that like hey they're good so far when they come in the building. It's only when like obviously the guy they know the guy's at the top of the level and they don't want anybody speaking. So then this guy's got kids, which I thought was smart for the bad guy. He's like, dude, he's got it all planned out. He's got cameras and stuff. He's got people that let him know. But I'm thinking like, why would he have people tell him, hey, the cops are here in intercoms when he's got like cameras?
I know.
That was weird. I was like, that kind of ruined it for me when I saw that he's sitting in a room with all these cameras. I'm like, okay, he didn't need to get the kids at the snitch and tell him, hey, the police are here. I guess unless he did that purposely, so he's like, hey, why didn't you tell me? He's watching people, so it's basically blackmailed them. Like, hey, if you don't tell this, I'm gonna kill you.
Yep.
I wonder how many people in there were actually innocent, or how many are all criminals. Like the one guy was in there because he's obviously he's poor. His wife's sick, so he's getting medicine for her. Um, I don't know what he did, but obviously he helps him out. Uh, the main star, the one that where his wife is pregnant.
Hmm.
So, which was also weird was that was also similar to Dread, because the same thing happened for them in that movie.
But at least you had some conversation that
Yeah,
seemed a
yeah.
little more real with
It's
Dredd. And here,
yeah,
okay, pregnant wife, the guys are all serious. He's an ass kicker. That's great. Give me a reason why I should want to root for him. Shooting a kid or having somebody on your team shoot a kid that's technically a bad guy because he's a runner for the bad guy. That doesn't make me, root for you. I mean, some might go, "Oh, that's awful," but I mean, frankly, I was just taking care of business that needed to be done. But there was some slight snipping between some of the groups that were, or some of the people in the group that were trying to assault that. So I'm going, "What's the point in doing this?" I mean, it didn't make sense to me.
yeah. I mean, I s- I don't want to rail on this movie. I'm just saying, like, there are certain things I didn't like about it, and there's certain things I did like things I liked about it. The ending scene with the two, you find out that the one guy, he's a henchman for for the bad guy, is actually the brother of the main star.
Yep.
Like, and they is they go he goes to rescue. They fight against this one guy. These guys he's called Mad Dog because apparently he's just crazy.
He's the
Um,
curly-haired guy, if I recall.
yes, the
I
long hair.
called I
Yes,
in my notes I have written down here. I'm calling him janitor guy because he looked like a janitor.
yeah, yes. Yeah. I like the fact that like that guy had some good scenes. He's like here. When he gets the sergeant, the one that was leading the raid. You know, he's like he had on gunpoint, and the guy had a knife. He's like, well, and then he put the gun away because as soon as he pulled him into a room. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Like that kind of threw me off for a loop. And then he's like, hey, I hate using guns. Guns are basically for pussies.
Hmm.
I'll put my gun down. He took the bullet out, took the clip out, and he's like, we're gonna fight it, man, man.
Let's do it, mano a mano, which
And
is
that,
completely stupid. I mean, and it takes away
yeah,
from what's about to happen.
yeah. He's a overconfident guy. Now it would have made more sense if he would have lose to the sergeant. Just saying, hey, showing flaws of being too cocky, and that's how he lost. He's like, you're an idiot.
Hmm.
But
Well, Mad Dog, Mr. Janitor guy, when he pulled the gun out and he was putting him in a room, I thought, okay, he's really really close. That's not a smart way to use a gun, tactically speaking. So again, it just illustrates that the team, to me, even though he didn't try to do anything, he went into the room, allowing Mad Dog to do it before they got in the fight. I'm like, okay, I don't know if that's exactly what would have happened. I mean, people would have tried maybe a disarm or something, but the guy was just too close, and I thought that's ridiculous for as fast as these guys are doing it. And I want to talk a little bit about the machetes because machetes are just wicked and evil looking, and that translates well not just in person but on screen, especially when they're rusty looking and disgusting and probably give you a disease if they don't kill you. So that was kind of cool, and it gave you a feeling of the slumminess of where they were at, in some high-rise building that's supposed to be in a piss-poor part of town. So it had a nice gritty kind of tone to it, and the violence was gory, which was and done the way it was shot was very effective. The way they sliced it, it seemed somewhat realistic. Now some scenes I thought, I don't know if they were sped up, but they seemed a little too fast and too choppy and cutty. And when they actually, with Mad Dog, the janitor guy, fighting, when they have this big fight, I actually found myself liking this guy because for some reason the way he moved and the way he fought, I liked him. It's like when you watch two people, playing tennis, which nobody does any day, but you see one guy serving and volleying and it's totally different. Something that just draws you out, or like if you're playing basketball and you're, in today's game, you would actually have a big guy rather than a bunch of people shooting threes. There's something different about it and it catches your eye. There's something about the way Mad Dog was fighting. And I don't know the martial arts like Silat well enough to say, oh, well, he did this technique differently, and they were just putting it on display. So if I just assume this movie had Salat in it and everything else, not to display how great Salat is and to advance the art form of that martial art, but just to have it as something cool looking. That's fine. I'm okay with it. But I almost won't fall myself for him because I felt like he was the better fighter, and he beat Jaka. He broke his neck, which is Thank you, Steven Seagal, for putting that on screen. So everybody does it these days, with the great little celery crunch. But the thing too is,
yeah,
the main boss level. Whenever they cut to him, he's doing the cutting a banana or the apple with the knife, and just he's underplaying it, trying to do the hard guy. And I'm looking at this guy going, I don't know why you're a main dude. I don't know why. Maybe you're going to be an ass kicker at the end and beat somebody up. I don't know. What makes you bad? What makes you not just bad as in an antagonist in this movie? What makes you a badass? Because I wasn't getting the vibe, and every time they went to him, I'm like, at least janitor guy, Mad Dog, you're like, hey, this guy really kicks some ass. I mean, it was a great fight scene, but we end up having another machete fight and a cool scene where the guy throws the guy out the down the the center shaft there, and he kind of lands on his back. That was kind of cute. I like that. That's one of the pictures we
Oh,
have here. But
one of the things I was gonna say real quickly on that thing with the guy getting thrown off.
uh
The other thing was cool when the guys were taking the machetes in them out there and climbing up to the next level.
yes, that was a cool
And
scene.
yeah,
And that's not what I think we want in martial arts. It's just not the martial arts. It's how they're used, the creativity part to it. Because I'm watching the first machete fight, and all these guys run in, and we could talk about ninja style one at a time. Because in reality, 4 or 5 guys would just come on each side and just stand there because the guy's got no guns. I mean, honestly, then you could tell your little 8-year-old other looker that didn't get shot in the neck, hey, go get a gun. I mean, it's just nobody ever does that, and it's to show off the martial arts, and we know it. But when it's so blatant like it was there, it can take away from it. But I want to share with you what I took out of this fight and what we got in further fights with multiple opponents. I'm going to call it the Chuck Norris special because on our earlier Chuck Norris films that we've reviewed here on Kicking It, we got gratuitous amounts of tracksuits. And there are tons of tracksuits in this, and that's what makes it awesome. So there you go. Tracksuits, machete fights. That's a winning combination in my book.
it's like it's something you see like almost like in any it works with any culture as far as like gangsters stuff, especially do tracksuits and use machetes.
Yeah.
You can do the Italians, Russians, Irish, all that stuff. Whenever you bring a machete into like an actual like a movie when they're doing fights or any apartment complex, it's a trope, but it's one of the ones I don't mind. I don't mind
More tracksuit,
because how
better ratings.
because well yes you literally never really you don't really see machetes in movies that much anymore. You don't. Everybody uses a gun or and like it's just it's like or yeah or they use brass knuckles and it's like I love the old school I loved like what movie was that the one with Johnny Depp where he played the guy it's during the 70s. It's called Black
Donnie
It's actually,
Brasco?
no, it wasn't Donnie Brasco. It was another one. It's about the guy who had a friend who was in the FBI. He was a gangster and
The
takes
name
place in the
escapes me, sir.
oh I know it and it's kicking myself to cut for this because I was just talking to Ingleton about this
Mhm.
and anyway I love mobster movies and I love gangster movies and all like especially during the 70s that era and stuff in the 80s well because nobody had internet, nobody had smartphones,
Yep.
so it's like if you want to take down somebody you had to do it the old-fashioned way. You had the walkie-talkie, that's how you communicated.
Yeah, and you figured here with technology, you can show things that you couldn't show before. And one of the things they do well in here is there is gratuitous use of machete, but it's done well with the slicing and dicing. There's definitely some knife shots in here that are pretty good. There's definitely a lot of slamming people's heads and stuff, and they show it to you. Some I think they, at least on the version I saw, might have cut away a little bit, but I thought mine was the fully unrated version, so I'm not sure if that's intentional or if that's an editing thing due to the distribution channels coming out of Indonesia or in Asia or however that works over there. Because the business model, well, probably identical, even if they copied Dread or not. There's some subtle differences that I may be ignorant on, and you may be as well. Because again, we don't sit there and go, "Hey, let's go watch another Indonesian film," unless, of course, we know somebody that recommends it, like this one. So to me, I'm thinking, okay, we're halfway through the movie, about 2/3 of it. And the team described this as just nonstop action once they got in the building. And that's fairly true, and the action's watchable. There's no real surprises, I think, and they changed a couple settings. There's a neat scene in here where guys getting chopped up with an axe a little bit, like in the shoulder. You're like, okay, they actually showed that, and they let that develop to where you could see the guy getting hit, and you're like, okay, that's pretty cool. And then there's the scene where they cut through the door or the floor to go down into the level below them, and then they do like the IED thing with the refrigerator, which was that was kind of cool. But ultimately, I was like, okay, hour and a half into this movie, getting close to being over, and it's like some cool scenes, some neat stuff, but not anything I would call groundbreaking or super creative or anything that made me go, huh, I never thought of that, which that's okay too, because it's okay at this point, but I'm not feeling a build up. Um, I don't now. There might be a bad man turn in here, which I'll let you talk about. And I think the fight in the lab scene's kind of good because there's some different techniques. But right here towards the end, what were you thinking?
I was thinking, man, how much longer you got with this movie? No, no, really, no. Honestly, the towards the end, I thought it was starting to pick up more. Um, it was I said like I got sick of like, okay, like, well, we don't all the cops are jokes and all. How long are we gonna have him just going against like wave after wave of just being one guy? I mean, like I love martial arts, but like I also love like a balance of healthy like guns too. And I felt like they did like guns for like 10 seconds in the movie, and then they went to just doing martial arts. The other creative scene that they did is the propane tank in the refrigerator.
Yep. Yep.
That was great. I love that. But I mean, I would have loved it more if like it had been like I like see I'm a diehard fan. Like I that kind of ruined the movies for me after seeing that. It was comedy. Balance all the action, suspense. This one was just there wasn't really no comedy in this at all, and I think that might have helped it a little bit. But the like
It's hard to say because I mean with comedy, like Jackie Chan, you don't take the martial arts seriously, but yet because they do their practical effects themselves as a group, with no matter who he's got working with them, you appreciate that. That's what you're going to get. So for what I liked here too is that it did have a pretty serious dark tone to it, but and I think to your point, comedy, I don't know if it might have helped because it might have given you a chance to breathe a little bit. Maybe. I'm not saying it's a bad thing that they didn't have it. So, I don't know either. And I wondered the exact same thing. Maybe that's not what they were after.
I don't know. I'll have to give this movie another rewatch after because I'm tired as it is. Maybe I just wasn't really into it. I wasn't paying attention much. Um, I mean, like I said, like I would right now this movie I would give it a 7 out of 10. It's still a good movie. It's still a good movie. It's not a great movie. It's not a movie I'm gonna go back and watch over and over again.
Well, sometimes a movie comes along and, everybody hops on or they get hyped for it, and that's cool. I felt that was the case here, but this movie's been out 8 years, and I mean, I've heard of it, but nobody's ever told me this is why I should go see it. If somebody had told me and said, hey, there's this micro budget film that's got a lot of machete wielding tracksuit guys in there practicing Silat on here, and they have their own stunt team like Jackie Chan, so it's going to look totally different. That would have been enough for me to sit there and say, you know what? I'm going to think about that. I might go catch that movie because I don't know how big of a release it was here in the States. So I know a lot of our fans for Kicking It in the martial arts here on the Extreme Movie Show or from Indonesia and Asia too. So I'm looking forward to hearing from them their feedback on whether they consider this movie great, not, or if maybe in that culture it's just considered just another film. I don't know. I do know that I'd seen like some Tony Jaa films back in the day, like long back the Thai Warriors and some of them, and I like that in each movie there might have been one or two really creative, different scenes I haven't seen, but we always know there's, a boss level type fight, and that's like the whole idea. So the question is, how are you going to do it? So here, I think they went to go dark, serious. I think it was shot well, but I gotta say this: I do think the chemistry between the lead people fighting, regardless of whether they are good guys or bad guys, I think you really felt this in this film. And so this whole group being together, making movies, showing stuff off, I do think they have something here. So maybe if that's what people were trying to communicate, saying about the raid being, oh, it's the greatest action movie in a decade. Well, action movies are pretty non-existent the way we're talking about with martial arts. I can see where it would have stepped in and filled that void. So to me, I agree. I think it's a decent film. It's not bad. It's entertaining enough. It's worth a watch. Um, some people may have, depending on their background with martial arts movies, certain styles that they prefer, or some people may not like the over the top. I wouldn't say over the top, but the graphic nature of the violence in here. I certainly don't mind it. And I found it refreshing, and I will say this: I appreciate it in a sense that I don't think you would see a movie just like this made in the United States with this kind of violence. It does seem like a totally different film than an American action film, and I respect it for that.
Yeah, I mean, I love having movies that are different from the typical Hollywood stuff. I love action movies. I love martial arts. This had both. It's like I said, like it could be because I'm overtired, so I wasn't really into the movie. It's just I just kind of watch it just to watch.
Hmm.
Maybe when I watch it again when I'm more awake, more I'll maybe I'll enjoy it. it's weird how movies are like that. You know, when you get older, like you go back and watch something like, hey, this actually was better than I remember it to be, or it sucks worse. It's like it's it's all the mindset, you know. So, but like I said, I wonder, maybe I would have liked this more if I wouldn't have seen Dread
Hmm.
with, you know, um,
I know there's a lot of comparisons between the movie Dread, not Judge Dredd with Stallone, but Dread, which
just
came out around the same time, I think, in this movie, correct?
yeah, yeah, Carl Urban one, yes,
Yes.
and he had the girl as the psychic who was helping out his partner. That I think that kind of helped it a little bit more. Versus just like this guy is a lone wolf, you know. Well, he's what's left of his crew.
Hmm. Yeah, to me, I agree with you. It's a good film. One more thing I want to say that I do like about it, it does have a bit of a serious tone. I respect that. The other thing I like about it is that, and in American casting in films, especially with the roles, you get a guy that's not that big, but somewhat pretty, somewhat not necessarily masculine looking, but whatever. So there's a certain look in the in American cinema where you go, oh, this is the pretty one, this one's good, so therefore they're the good guy. This person's ugly, so they're going to be the bad guy. Human nature stuff. Here, because you have a totally different set of people working from a different culture, the standards of what may be considered beautiful or attractive over there I don't think necessarily as something that we're used to seeing, because people over there in this film they seem to be somewhat athletic, somewhat look kind of the same. So nobody's ugly, nobody's pretty, nobody's hot. They look like normal average Joes doing it, which I think's good. It doesn't make anybody look like a superhero. So I appreciate the fact that when you see somebody like that, and then they can kick some ass and do stuff, you're like, okay, that's kind of cool. A normal person, doing something really, really awesome, and it happens to be a part of their culture. It gives it a sense of authenticity. Where if you saw a pretty boy here like Ryan Reynolds, who I'm not saying doesn't act well or doesn't do action well, but he's pretty and he acts like a goof. So when he goes to do something like serious and physical and martial arty, you kind of almost don't, do that. And here, a lot of people weren't smiling or anything with the fight. So I do give him credit. There's some good things about it, but I think the things that are good about it are really what separate it from an American action film, and certainly not what we've come to expect out of an American film. So like you, I think it's worth a watch. Any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Man, if you like this movie, the one that this guy is the main star in this one is a better movie than it's called The Night Comes for Us. That came out in 2018, couple just last year.
Is that the same group of
Uh,
people though?
Same group of people. I mean, I have total respect for people who actually do martial arts. You said you weren't sure if some of these were sped up. I think what it is that we're so used to seeing the slow people like Seagal and those or Chuck Norris who don't do speed fighting like Jackie Chan can or Jet Li.
Hmm.
That's why the reason why Jackie Chan went back to Hong Kong and film because they wanted him to slow down his moves because the stunt actors he's with could not keep up.
Right.
So I mean, I'm all for this. Like I kind of love the martial arts, the traditional when it comes to the Hong Kong stuff more versus the Americanized stuff.
Yeah, there's a
Um,
great scene in a Scott Adkins film a few years back that Amy Johnston in it where they're fighting and she's got like a sword and she's athletic and her moves are authentic. She's grown up with martial arts and Scott Adkins is very what I call flippity floppity, but I actually like that and
mhm.
he's really as somebody mentioned before, oh his movies suck. I'm like, no, he doesn't suck. His movies are video on demand, or he does a whole bunch of them. They're usually generally pretty good, and I don't think we really have here in the states. Even though I don't know that he's technically American, I think he's British or Australian or something. But he makes a lot of films overseas, and he does what he wants. But there's been crossover with Van Damme and some other things. So to me, I'm going, just watch this movie makes me go, where's an American martial artist where this was a thing? Because martial arts aren't dead. MMA is super popular. But it's been 20 plus years since MMA went mainstream, and where's that going to come from? We keep talking about Amy Johnston being in Mortal Kombat. That's cute and that's nice, but I would love to see like an American type movie like The Raid that's a little serious, a little graphic, and with a group of people that show us their stuff, and it's not all the wires and CGI and everything else there too. So we'll see what happens on that. Yeah, The Raid,
Yeah,
good movie.
this guy I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's Iko Uwais or Wise. I'm probably butchering it horribly. He's also in I guess apparently he started in it was in Mile 22. And now I remember that that's the Mark Wahlberg one, about this with the Lauren Cohan, where they're like to protect, they're like FBI or CIA agents.
Mm-hmm.
He's the guy that was in the hallway with them that actually helped them out, like in the fight scene. Like he was the one that Mark Wahlberg was fighting against at first,
Right.
because he's the guy, he was playing the snitch.
Mm-hmm.
So he's the one that's helping him out. Uh, apparently this guy's also big. He was also in Star Wars episode, the last one they just had, Force Awakens. I guess no, not it's. I guess not the last one they had, but but he was in there as well. So I mean, this guy is doing pretty well. He's also the main character in Wu Assassins. So I mean, like, I know Rob, you didn't care for that one as much. I tremendously enjoyed it because I love the supernatural stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Comes this, and it's more traditional martial arts. Where they include martial arts and fantasy. Sci-fi, supernatural stuff. But yeah, he's also going to be. Apparently, they're filming it right now. He's going to be in the new Snake Eyes movie, which I
Oh,
believe.
interesting.
Yeah, the J. Joe spinoff. He's going to be. His character is called Hard Master. Not sure who that is, but it could be a good movie. Well, time will tell. Because I mean, this guy, he's a great martial artist. I think what he works better with scripts. I liked him in, what was the other one he just did? Yeah, they come in the night comes
Night
for
comes for
us.
us. Yep.
He was a bad guy in this one, and the guy who played the sergeant in this one, the one who gets his neck stamped by a mad dog, is actually the main star in that one. He's the good guy. He's the one taking on the mob and their former friends. And they have a great fight scene towards the end there. Even like that movie, and that movie also had Machete as well. It's the same crew
Mm-hmm.
um, as doing the raid, and like these guys, as I think the raid was decent. This is when we're reviewing right now. I have not seen Raid 2. I'm looking forward to that. See, hopefully that's a little bit better. Or I won't. I'll make sure I'm watching them when I'm more wide awake. I'll get a nice pot of coffee in me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, the night comes for us. The dude that they stepped up. I mean, obviously it was like 7 years since they did the raid. So maybe they learned stuff. Maybe they realized, hey, let's trim it down a little bit, or even though that was a long movie too. That was like almost 3 hour movie. But you got more of a sense where it's like an underdog. The guy, there's the whole movie is like pretty much Machetes, man. That movie.
Well, it's like a lot of things. Give me a reason to care as a viewer. Get me
Yeah,
emotionally
yeah.
invested. Get me where I want to see some guy get his ass beat at the end, or just two different points of view that I know are going to clash, and just give me a nice epic send off, and just tease me all the way up to that. When you John Wick it up and you throw 50 million things at you, it just cheapens it and ruins the quality. And
Well,
and I think that happened a little bit in this film.
this movie, I remember in the beginning, he's seeing his wife and he kisses her because she's pregnant, and she's 2 months away from being giving birth to their child, and and then they're in a swap vehicle, and this guy, the main guy in here, well, it's like, sir, Sarge, why here and why not, why us, and the guy's like, some guy like across the thing made some stupid joke, and he's like, whatever, and then, like, they kind of left it at that. So I'm thinking, like, now I'm asking myself, why did I watch it? Why us? Why this movie? But I mean, like, I just thought that was such a weird question, and he didn't get an answer from the cop, the sergeant,
Yeah, it's piss poor writing. Ahsoka's in channel saying, "What's this movie? Never heard of it when it was released." And I said, "Oh, it's 2011. It's
I
Indonesian martial arts. It's got a different style to it, but there's nothing I can come away and go, oh, this move or that move is this type of thing. So next time I watch a martial arts movie, I can look for this move. Now, hopefully, in the next movie, I'll just see a bunch of tracksuits."
Yeah, I remember seeing this movie on Netflix a couple years ago, and I just kind of overlooked it because I was just like, okay, it's a raid. I watched some of the trailer, and I'm like, I've seen this movie before, so that's kind of one of the reasons why I really didn't watch it at first. But then, so then people were saying, like, yeah, you said, like, people were telling us, you guys got to watch this, you review this. I'm okay, I'll give you an honest review. I mean, you may not like what I have to say, and, like, that's part of the gamble. You want me, I can sugarcoat it for you and say this is the best movie ever, but I'm not like I wouldn't be honest. You know.
So lots to say about this movie. Okay, everybody, thanks for listening. In a little bit, we'll be doing, I think it's tonight, I think Eglinton has 2015 top 10 movies, which we'll be doing a separate stream for that. The doctor and I are going through a few different requests possible that we're going to do for our next show. We've got some Christmas ones that we want to do and some other ones. So if we have any requests, please message us, let us know what that is. And as always, thanks for listening. Thanks for the retweets and letting people know and help grow the channel. I really appreciate that. I know the doctor does as well. So for the doctor, for myself, for the tracksuit wearing number of bad guys in spirit, holding a machete and a gold chain, dead somewhere on the 16th floor of some building in Jakarta, stay extreme.
And always carry flashbangs with you.
Take care.